Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Higher Education TUG meeting for March of 2023. We're so glad you could all join us today, and we do have a few announcements to kick things off. I'd like to start by saying the EduVisors are looking for a new co-lead or an additional co-lead, and we've got some links to share in the chat with you if you're interested. You can contact Amy Wu or Dennis Cowell. I have both of their Twitter handles to share with you. There you go. And you can find out more about EduVisors on their website. Essentially, this is one of those community projects where you can improve your data visualization skills by taking a provided data set and then building a data visualization around it. And all of their data sets are, as the name would imply, education related. So that's why this group is kind of the perfect audience. So if you want to build out your resume and work on an extracurricular activity with education data, please do reach out to one of them. Also, the Vizzies are going to be at the Tableau conference this year. And I do believe Roshni just shared the link in the the link in the chat. If you aren't familiar with the Vizzies, it is an award ceremony essentially that there are a lot of different categories, one being the best Tableau user group, which of course, we hope you would vote for the Higher Education Tableau user group. So you can go on there and submit nominations. And if you feel so inclined, you can submit the Higher Ed TUG along with your other favorites from the Tableau world. If I missed anything there, Roshni, please feel free to jump in. Also, we'd like to invite anyone who has announcements to come off mute and share those, especially if you have any job postings that you want to share. You can put those in the chat, you can post them on our Slack channel, or you can come off mute and tell the group about those. Any announcements from anyone? I think my birds are all announcing that spring is on the way, if you can hear them in the background.
So it's funny because it doesn't feel like spring for, I'm guessing, most of us in North America right now with the piles of snow and torrential rains that we keep seeing in the meeting chat as folks are introducing each other or introducing themselves. A whole lot of weather chatter.
I've got one.
Hey, Harold.
Hey there. Harold Thomas here. I'm lead solutions engineer at Tableau covering Southeast higher education. My account executive, Chris Regan, and I have an announcement. We're collaborating with Florida International University on March 28th, and we're hosting a Tableau Day there on their campus. So just wanted to put this out there in case any of you are local or passing through the Miami area, if you want to drop in and join us for that. That's March 28th. You can reach out to Chris or I'll put our email addresses in the chat. And then also to just kind of open this invitation up to any campus who wants to host their own little mini conference, what we call Tableau Days or Analytics Days. Your account team is here to help you and support you in that. So reach out to your account executive. If you don't know who that person is, feel free to, again, reach out to Chris or I, and we will put you in touch. And I'll put some information in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you, Harold. That kind of segues right into the announcement I was going to make, which is that the Appalachian State University Analytics Day, the date has been set for June 15th of 2023. So go ahead and mark your calendars, block off the entire day, because that's what we do. It's all Tableau all day long. So the event is going to be virtual again this year. We don't have a registration form or a website up yet, but that will be coming soon in April. And we'll be sharing that with you as it's available. It's exciting to see the other institutions are starting to do that too. All right, well, unless there's anything else, go ahead and throw it in the chat if there is, and I will go ahead with the agenda for the day. First, we're going to have our Meet a Community member with my friend Geoff from the University of Miami. Then we're going to have tips and tricks with Allie, Micka from Tableau. And we're going to see a map viz about parking wars from Nathan Hodges at Western Carolina, followed by our wrap up and breakout rooms for chats. All right, without further ado, we'll just hop right in. All right, so Geoff is the Director of Data Analytics at the University of Miami and a personal friend of mine. He prides himself on being a cross-functional analytics leader and is very passionate about enabling professionals to thrive with the help of data. Geoff has been using Tableau since 2013, about how long I've been using it, and credits the software for opening his eyes to the ways data can accelerate growth and change in one's career. So Geoff started an analysis community, the Pick Your Passion group, which you're going to hear more about later, to allow fellow analysts to express their various passions through data projects. When Geoff is not working in Tableau or R, he enjoys spending time with his wife, 2 kids, 2 dogs, and coaching his son's baseball and basketball teams. Gosh, you are a busy guy.
Yeah, a little bit, but I call it being fulfilled, Jenny. Not just
There you
busy,
go.
fulfilled.
There you
Yeah.
go. Well, I'm going to put your social media links in the chat for anyone who would like to get to know you better. And we will get started with our questions, which I quite conveniently deleted off of the slide. So give me just a minute to pull that up.
Pardon the pun, but should we just visualize that they're there? Should
We
do that?
should.
Yeah, okay.
You should imagine that they're there because, I mean, I ask the same questions every week. You would think that I had them all memorized by now, but I don't. So
There are so many questions, though. I
there
mean, it
really
makes,
are.
there's too many to memorize, I would think.
There probably are. So
So I'm going to start with one that I think is near the beginning of the list. So Geoff,
excellent.
Jenny already gave us a really quick intro, but can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Describe your role and what your team looks like and that sort of thing, please.
Yeah, sure. So myself, I'm a bit eccentric. Jenny already mentioned it. I'm pretty much a family man in my free time, or when I'm off work. But in terms of my professional role here at UM, you know my title, but the team I'm on is Institutional Research and Strategic Analytics. There's 15 staff members total on the team, and our team's primarily the centralized unit for BI and analytics at the university. So we cover pretty much the gamut, almost every single piece of data we touch. There's a couple that we don't, in terms of U Health. If you're familiar with UM, we don't really touch the U Health data, and some of the finance data we don't touch, but everything else we have our hands in, and it makes for a busy day, but it's like I said, fulfilling, and we really get cross-trained across the entire university.
All right. Well, I finally got them back. So what type of data do you work with?
So a lot, right? So obviously enrollment, financial aid, HR, admissions, career advancement, student financials. I mean, it runs the gamut across everything. So I sometimes get myself into trouble with this, but I rarely say no when it comes to working with types of data, because it just exposes you and allows you to learn everything. So when I say get in trouble, it's, sometimes I get overloaded, but I think it's worked out so far. I'm all about learning, and that's why we're here.
Absolutely. And it's so much fun when you can change up what you do, right?
Yes.
So tell us how you use Tableau at work.
So currently at UM, we use Tableau for a lot of our, what I'll term as special projects, right? So we create these data products that are focused for our leadership here at UM. So a couple of examples are since I've been on board. So I started here, by the way, at in March of last year. So it's coming up on a year, but already we've already created their executive dashboard that takes sort of a 10,000-foot view of the university for leadership. A lot of U.S. News and World Report stuff is in there. And recently, I don't know if she's on, and some of you might know her, but Jen Heaton on our team, she created a course evaluations dashboard that really looks at text mining and goes into some of the text analytics that we can do in R and links it up with Tableau there. So we use it for special projects. So another thing that I'd be remiss to leave out would be that Mary, who's I think on the call, she also published our first interactive fact book. So it used to be in PDF format before, but now we have an interactive fact book published on Tableau Public, and it's embedded on our website. So we use it for a lot of stuff. It's not a primary BI tool, but I love it, and I try to integrate it whenever possible.
That's awesome. I'm going to have to check out your interactive fact book. I haven't done that yet.
Please do.
All right. So I already said you've been using Tableau since 2013, but how did you learn Tableau?
It was sort of a trial by fire. You're thrown into the deep end and sink or swim, baby. But essentially, I got hired on in 2013 at a previous institution, actually under HR. And I was what you would term as an Excel evangelist. And I could create anything in pivot tables, right? And they said, hey, we have this tool called Tableau. I'd never heard of it. And I got in, and really my eyes got really wide. And I said, oh, wow, you can do so many things, so much easier than you can in Excel. And that's how I started off. And I just dove in to the trainings that were offered on the Tableau website, got involved with that. And then I learned about Tableau Public, saw the creations from the community up there. The community is really great. I'm sure everybody on the call knows that, but that really, going to the forums and interacting with everybody on there allowed me to learn it at a pace that honestly, I don't think you can learn other tools at because the community is just so integral in that.
I have to agree with you there. So next up is, what is your favorite Tableau feature? And because it's also March Mapness today, I'd like to know what your favorite Tableau map feature is.
Oh yeah, okay. So favorite Tableau feature, I'm going to cheat, probably mixed between two. When they came out, it was really integral to our operations, but the cross database joins and level of detail calculations. Cross database joins, we had data spread across different either databases or data sources, and allowing us to move away from blending really accelerated the usage of our dashboards there. And then level of detail calcs. If anybody who works in SQL knows that sometimes, having to write different subqueries and maybe different functions, it can be a little time consuming. And when you're already in the flow, right, in a Tableau dashboard or in a workbook, it's just easier to create level of detail calculations sometimes. And they also allow you to do some pretty cool things with different formulas as well. Oh, and then maps. So I would say my favorite map function was something that replaced a mathematical formula that we had to do. It's when you zoom in and you can just select an area that goes out to, 15 miles or however long, and it selects the data points within that. The reason that is because we used to have a dashboard where I used to work that would look at students. It was an online university, right? So they could be nationwide. And when we were doing road shows and having some of our staff members go out and meet the students and meet alumni, they would often ask, how many alumni live within, 10 miles of this city. And so we would have to do ad hoc requests for that. But once that feature came out in Tableau, I'm not sure which version it came out in, but you could zoom in and say, hey, here you go, zoom in, and then just select your area, your radius of 10 miles. And then, we'd pop up a list of the students within that radius, and it just became, governed self-service at that point. So that was really helpful.
That is a great use case. So what Tableau feature would you still like to learn more about?
It's really, something that we haven't, or at least I haven't done personally, is the integration with the different analytics extensions, right? So if you have, TabPy or RServe connected to a dashboard in production, I'd love to see that, because I'm all about that type of efficiency there. Right now, we run a lot of our scripts that are outside of the system, they'll create, CSVs or different file types, and then we'll connect to that. But if we could, if anybody has experience with that, I'd love to see how they do that, because that I think is a great use case for what we want to do with particular statistical testing and predictive models eventually.
Definitely. What is one thing that you wish you could go back in time and tell Tableau newbie you?
Don't try to put literally everything in Tableau. Don't go crazy. If you look at some of my, oh man, you go back and look at some of my first Tableau creations, I was very proud of them because it's like, wow, I could do all this stuff. But sometimes, less is more. And so what I would say to anybody new to Tableau is, look at, best practices in visualization, and don't try to create a dashboard that has 80 objects on it, because it's going to be overwhelming to the user.
That's the truth. Do you also use Tableau outside of work? And if so, how?
Yes. So you mentioned it earlier, Jenny. So I created this group. It's called Pick Your Passion. And I can put a link to it in the chat once I'm done. But essentially, it's an analysis group, a community group, at a much smaller scale than compared with Makeover Monday. But it started with Makeover Monday, right? So we had people that I worked with. We tried to keep up with it every single week, but we couldn't keep up with it. So we eventually created our own little group, small group, where we met quarterly, and folks were randomly chosen to choose their passion topic, essentially. And so the next upcoming meeting that we're having, I guess you could call it a meetup that we're having, is April 13th. If anybody's available, I could send you more information. We'd love to have anybody who's willing to join. It's the judgment-free zone. Everybody's just here to look at others' passions, create data, or you find data sets and you create analyses. It doesn't have to be in Tableau, but I think 98% of the submissions have been in Tableau so far. And it's just a really great community. It's a way to keep in touch with folks every quarter, and it also keeps your portfolio in Tableau Public padded.
I have to, full disclosure, say that I've been a member of this group for years now, and I look forward to it every quarter, and we have a great time, and always excited to have new people join.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you want to share before we jump into the lightning round?
Well, I don't get to get my hands on with, developing Tableau dashboards or things anymore. And I mentioned it earlier with Jen's course evaluations dashboard. I love that. I love that type of stuff. But I wish I could do it more, but I'm always impressed by what people can create in this community, the hacks that they'll find, and some of the works of art that they'll create with this tool that's meant to create dashboards, right? So, keep it up. The things that you're creating are inspiring others to make their other tools better. Say, for instance, other BI tools that are out in the market, right? I think Tableau has helped push them, and the folks that are creating in Tableau are helping that endeavor along the way.
Definitely. All right. Well, then we're going to jump into our lightning round, if you're ready.
Oh, born ready. Let's go.
Yes. All right. So Friday is St. Patrick's Day. I hope you're planning to wear as much green as possible. And so I wanted to ask you, what is your good luck charm?
So I don't really have a good luck charm. I know it's kind of like not in the spirit of St. Patrick's Day, but I am superstitious. So an example of that is, when I coach my son's baseball and basketball teams, I'll wear the same outfits for every game. It'll be clean. Don't get me wrong, it's clean. It's not dirty, but I'll wear the same thing every single game because it's, I need consistency when it comes to that. So I am superstitious. And when we went to the playoffs for basketball, I changed my outfit and I wore that outfit for every playoff game. So superstitious.
Nice. I'm glad I don't do your laundry. All right. So next up, today is Pie Day, not P-I-E pie, but P-I. But we wanted to ask, what is your favorite pie flavor?
So apple pie, but very specifically, my wife's apple pie.
Ah.
So if there's anybody on that knows Lindsay, please let her know that I'm giving her a good shout out to her cooking. It's very good.
Will do. If she has a secret recipe, I think you're going to need to share it with the group.
Hey, yeah, I'll get it from her and I'll share it. It's simple, but man, it's good.
Mm-hmm. Next up, also right along with it being Pi Day, today is International Day of Mathematics. So do you have a favorite mathematical operation in Tableau?
I'm cheating again. I'm gonna give two. So the first one is that the great circle distance formula, right? So I mentioned it earlier when we used to have a project where folks would come to us and say, how many students or alumni live within X miles of a certain latitude or longitude, right? This city. And so you can use the great circle distance in Tableau to calculate that dynamically, right? And so that was really good. But then there's also, if anybody's familiar with TF-IDF, term frequency, inverse document frequency, in Tableau, you can dynamically calculate that with level of detail calculations. And what that does is it automatically shows you keywords out of text. So I would say those two are my favorite. And since great circle distance, you can still use it, obviously, but since that's sort of been deprecated with some of the new features, the lasso in the mapping, I think the TF-IDF takes the cake now.
I only know what that is because of your pick your passion project from last quarter.
Hey, PYP learning.
That's right. All right, who knew it was also National Potato Chip Day? Apparently today is very popular. So in honor of that, what is your favorite flavor of potato chips?
I'm gonna act like a 15-year-old Geoff. Spicy nacho Doritos. I just go back in time, and man, I love those things.
I could see that. It would remind me of high school too.
Yes.
So today is also International Ask a Question Day. So since I know you have 2 children, I want to know, what questions do your kids ask on repeat?
Okay, so my son Grant, he always says, Daddy, who is your top, whatever, NBA players of all time? Because he's obsessed with watching basketball, and so he'll routinely ask me, who are your top Pistons players? Who are your top 5 players? And all these NBA players. So we go through this exercise, and then McKinley, my daughter, she's 3, and so she'll say, all the time, Daddy, can you play with me? And that's what she'll say. So that's more cute than, my 9-year-old asking about basketball, but the 3-year-old always asks me to play with her.
Those are good questions. So I also know that you are a huge basketball fan, and today is Dribble to Work Day.
Ooh.
Who would ever be able to do that? I mean, that's a long way for me to dribble. Anyway, so who is your favorite basketball team? You can do college and or professional.
So officially, it is the University of Miami Hurricanes. Go Canes. They're playing on Friday. But truthfully, it's something that I don't think everybody on here will like this choice, but I've always liked them since I was in elementary school, Duke Blue Devils for basketball. So they play Thursday night at 7. So that's the truthful answer. And then you got my official one.
That's funny. My dad's a huge Duke fan.
Oh, nice.
All right. So it's also National Learn About Butterflies Day. So if you had to pick, would you pick a butterfly or a moth?
Butterflies every single day. In particular, the monarch butterfly. We learned about it in 2nd grade, their migration pattern. I've always been impressed by that. And because it's not like they fly as fast as birds, right? This thing takes a long time to get down there.
I think there might even be a Tableau Viz about that.
Yes, there is.
And then finally wrapping it up today, or not today, but in 2 days, it is National Artichoke Day. I'm a huge fan of the artichoke. Apparently this is a very controversial vegetable, more so than I realized. So what is your favorite artichoke recipe?
It's whenever we go out to eat and I see spinach and artichoke dip on the menu, I have to get it, particularly if there's, crab or Old Bay and they're mixed in. I just love it. I have to. It's like a must order. I don't even have to be hungry, and I'll just order it. It's delicious.
That sounds wonderful. Well, that wraps up our Meet a Community Member for the month. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this for us. And if anybody else would like to be our featured community member in the future, just fill out our interest form or reach out to one of the HE Tug co-leads and let us know.
Thank you all. Thanks, Jenny.
Thanks.
That was great. Thank you, Geoff. So it's my pleasure to introduce Allie Micka from Tableau. She joined Tableau as a solution engineer in February of 2020 and is currently based in New York City. For the past 3 years, she's been helping customers in higher ed and beyond across Canada and the US see and understand their data. And she joined the Tableau higher education team last year. Allie's got a dual degree in sport management and finance from the University of Massachusetts Amherst before jumping into working in tech. Her highlights from her time at Tableau are having the opportunity to attend Dreamforce and the Tableau conference, which is coming soon, by the way, in person, and working on the Olympic Team Viz to build out her dashboards. We'll throw some links to LinkedIn and Tableau Public into the chat. And with that, Allie, I will turn it over to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm going to go ahead and steal the screen and share when you get a chance. Yeah, so hi everyone. Excited to be here today to talk about a few tips and tricks with mapping with Tableau. As mentioned, I do have a background in sport management. So for a project last year, I built out a name, image, likeness dashboard using data that we found online. Obviously, that over the past couple of years, that has been a hot topic in NCAA sports, with athletes being able to receive compensation for their name, image, and likeness. So I worked with an intern over the summer to scrape all the data from a site that was tracking NIL deals. We ended up having to mock up some of the data for the fields that we thought would be interesting to present here. And then we weren't able to get from the site, as well as additional context for some of the deals. Some were more like free food or free products versus actual monetary value. So we wanted to kind of keep that similar across the board. So this was the dashboard that we built out. I think it's linked as well on my Tableau Public, but I have a story that goes along that has additional workbooks as well. But we wanted to look at breakdowns by different demographics, where students are from, what industry is really common for NIL deals, and then just to have some additional feature functionality built in. Also working with one of the interns, wanted to try and teach a few tips and tricks as much as I could. So we incorporated some of those here. So the first one that you can see here, along with the map theme of today, is that I put in a parameter to swap sheets between a hometown map and a college map. So this just basically allows us to track deals based off of where student athletes are attending school and where they're from originally. And then some of the additional features that I built in is that as you hover over each of these data points, you get a Viz and tooltip, which just gives additional context about what sport these athletes are, how many are from each area, their gender, things like that. And then also with this little bubble map here, it's broken down by all the different industries. But then you can see each of the individual companies, seeing that, you know, Liquid IV has the most NIL athletes for the food and beverage industry. Barstool kind of took over the NIL scene with basically having a Barstool athlete at a ton of different schools, providing them with some products there. And then looking at deal sizes over time here. So to get a little bit under the hood here, I'm going to go into this worksheet and talk through some of the features that I've built into this dashboard. So starting with the Viz and tooltip, it's a pretty cool feature where if you click on the tooltip, and it always pulls up in a different window for me. If you go in and edit the tooltip, which I might have messed up a little bit when I was playing around with this earlier, but obviously you can go in, edit the tooltip, format it, add additional context here, but then you can also go in and insert additional sheets that you've built out. So it kind of saves you some real estate on the dashboard itself, and then allows you to drill in and hover into additional information when you're filtering and clicking around the sheet here. The other piece that I had mentioned was using a parameter to swap out the sheets. So the way that I did that was I built out this parameter here, which I'll pull up and show, that basically ties this current map to the school map, so that when I choose and select the filter that I've added on as the second step, I can choose the school map or the hometown map to swap out those vises. And then once you create the parameter, you create a calculated field that just includes the parameter here, drag that onto your filters tab up here at the top, make sure I get the right one. And then you want to make sure that the sheet that you're looking at is the one that's filtered. You don't want to filter to all. So that way, when you do this on the hometown map, which is the two that I was swapping between, it'll filter to the hometown map when that is selected. So that's quickly how I built that out. And then in order to put it in the dashboard, you just put the two sheets in a container and then remove the title. And then when they're filtered out, they will be able to swap out. The last thing I wanted to point out while I kind of demo or get under the hood here is another feature that relatively new, not one of the latest releases, but definitely since I've been here, is being able to add additional map layers to the view. So that's something that I probably could have built out to just add additional context into this view if I had chosen to do so. And it looks like I tried to do it here. But if I wanted to look at state, for example, so now I'm looking at all the different cities where the schools, where our schools are, but I wanted to add additional state data as well. All I would have to do is drag and drop that into the view, add a marks layer, and then you'll notice additional little dots pop up on the dashboard. And then you can obviously make that into a filled map just so you can really see, that both layers of data are here. And then you can drag and drop and arrange, putting the area code on top. So that way our states are recognized in that color shading. You can obviously add additional fields to add more context, but if you drag and drop the area code on top, then that will pop up and make it a little bit more visible. So those are a couple other features that I definitely could have added in. I've added it in on a couple other maps that I'll show. And then additional map features here. So obviously you can do custom geocoding with Tableau. And then you can also adjust the background maps or even bring in custom background images. So for example, if just for the view of the dashboard or the kind of the look and feel you're going for, you could add changes to dark, see how long it takes. If you prefer the way that looks, I built out a couple of maps that have like road data, things like that. So you can play around and really customize the look and feel of the map to go with the rest of your dashboard. So I'm gonna swap over here and pull up a couple of other dashboards that I've created or that you can find on Tableau Public. But just really to highlight that maps are a great way to display geographical data, but then they can also be used kind of in a custom image, being able to track additional information that's not necessarily state, zip code, or custom data points there. And it's all through Tableau's drag and drop. But this was in March Madness Spirit, a dashboard I built out for a tug last year for March Madness that has the map layers built in. So I can look and see, Duke, as mentioned, and North Carolina obviously have historically been very strong in the tournament. And you can see that reflected both by the city level data as well as the state level data for North Carolina in that dark blue. Also not related to maps, but something I did for fun here at the bottom was kind of create a custom shape timeline of who's won over time. This actually would have been a lot easier with the latest release, which now you can use image roles as a field in your data. So if you haven't looked into that feature yet, I definitely recommend it, but it basically makes it a field in the view rather than having to kind of create these custom shapes here. Other ways that this can be done within the higher education space or just in general is looking at maps of campuses or as I've mentioned a few times my background in sports. I've seen this used by athletic departments as well as professional teams, mapping where attendees are coming in for games, better understanding concession patterns and ticketing trends, even for pricing out tickets. And then from like a player standpoint too, there's some really amazing dashboards on Tableau Public that have sort of heat maps of where people are shooting from. I've seen some really great hockey ones and basketball ones. But I was on a webinar with a couple of professional sports teams, and they actually were recommending you go in one gate of their stadium over the other because it tends to be a lot less crowded. Their lines are shorter and they can track all that information in Tableau. This one was not built out by myself, but it's available on Tableau Public. And I think it's a really cool viz to just show additional map layers. Not sure why I'm disconnected from Tableau here, but this was built out on Tableau Public, and you can see here that there's little dots for charging points, supermarkets, road noise, so on and so forth. So you can really get granular with your details as well. Another map type that I've seen used are a lot are hex maps. So that kind of eliminates the Alaska effect when you're looking at this map. Even though there's a lot of bright red, some pink over here, your eye is kind of drawn to Alaska because it is massive and takes up half the map. So hex maps basically make every state equal size, and it allows you to really have the points of detail stand out. So up here, you can kind of see Delaware now that you know what you're looking for. But here it makes it a lot easier to see that Maryland and Delaware stand out in terms of some of their trends. And then the last piece here is a map that's built out for an accelerator, just another way to show down the drill down functionality with mapping. We have the Office of the President dashboard accelerator. You can connect your data directly into it, and then drill down to, I have to reconnect. But I can drill down and view where my students are coming from at the state level, and then get additional context by drilling in deeper and deeper. So now I'm looking at the county level, and then finally down to the zip code level. So if you're tracking that granular level of data, it allows you to drill a lot deeper and see where your students may be coming from. That was about it. I have a handful of other examples on Tableau Public. I was working with an agriculture customer who was trying to track where their crops were and if they were good or not. That's on my Tableau Public. And then honestly, I love looking through Tableau Public. The different maps that you can build out and visualizations there are truly incredible, both obviously for sports, lots of March Madness dashboards, might be using that to help me pick out a bracket this year. As well as mapping higher education examples and so forth. So that was about it. Are there any questions?
It looks like we do have a couple questions in the chat. One big one is how hex maps are done. That may or may not be something that you can do in right now, but maybe it's something you can think about for a future.
Definitely, yeah. I saw the post, or I'm kind of going through the chat now, but I'll enter all the links that I just shared, and then there's also a help page that walks through how to create hex maps, so I can include that. And then also I mentioned the sheet swapping as well. If there's any questions or want to go a little bit deeper into that, I'll compile all those links real quick here and throw them in the chat.
That'd be awesome. We do have another question. What is your favorite background map? Because there are so many options already built in and you can bring in your own. So what's your favorite one to use?
I end up always sticking with the default one, kind of accidentally, but I love the look and feel of the dark maps. One of my old teammates used to make some incredible dashboards and loved the dark aesthetic in creating the dashboards, and I think that looks really interesting.
Awesome. I also like the dark maps, but I found that sometimes it takes a lot more effort to try to get everything else to work right with those dark maps. So I think that is all we have time for right now. There are still some questions coming in the chat, so if you get a chance, feel free to answer them there. Although it also looks like we've got a whole lot of people from the group also answering in here. So although there's one more question that only you can answer. What is the long sleeve that you have on? Is it Salesforce, Tableau, Team USA, and DataViz sweatshirt?
Yeah, so I have my Tableau Data Pride shirt on, and then I have one of my Team USA sweatshirts. So it has Team USA here, the little Salesforce logo, and the Olympic logos. But this one I actually had to buy for myself, but the working the Team USA booth at Dreamforce, I got some cool t-shirts, which was really exciting. Also, if anyone's into F1, we've been building out some dashboards for them as well, which has been fun to be a part of.
Nice.
And
yeah, I remember a couple years ago, I think at TC, it was one of the mostly online ones. There were a whole bunch of sessions around the Olympics and some of the visualizations that were done in the Olympics, including some conversations with some competitors. I'm sure there are videos out there. If anyone is interested, they could, Google a little bit. Well, thanks so much, Allie. We are going to move on to our next presentation, if I can move the slides properly. And Nathan Hodges from Western Carolina is here to talk about some maps that he's done for the university. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of trouble with some links and getting screens to work. Okay, so Nathan works in the IR office at WCU. It's nestled in the beautiful mountains of Western North Carolina. And he works with SQL, Python, and Tableau, and loves pulling together data sources from all sorts of places. And he's going to show us a couple of examples here. So this the presentation is called Parking Wars Tableau Map Edition because it's all about parking, figuring out where the parking lots are at WCU, and then putting that together. Like I said, Nathan likes to get data from everywhere, putting that together with parking lot usage data, and putting together a dashboard about all of that. So we are gonna send it right over to Nathan, and take it away whenever you're ready.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm going to show you guys some parking things. So let me go to screen 2. So first of all, the use case. I didn't know that parking was such a problem for so many people. And I had a good time looking through the Western Carolinian. It's a newspaper outlet here in Western North Carolina. Or well, I guess it's from the students, which is probably why there's so many articles about parking problems. But you got parking mayhem escalates at WCU. This is back in 2001. Parking problems, 2006. And WCU parking disrupted by increase of students and construction. Construction being on the new parking deck. So in the years leading up to building this new parking deck, administration and finance started conducting surveys with the parking operations. And what it resulted in was a data set that looked like this. And I like that we're starting here at this point because most people are familiar with this structure of data. It's a traditional table. And so we have parking lots, and this table is one record per parking lot, per day, per hour, per week. The surveys were conducted for 2 weeks each semester, and parking operations would go around and actually count empty or taken occupied spaces and record that. And they did that for, let's see here, they did that from spring of 2017 to the fall of 2019. And so I also had to reconnect. Go here. You can see that if you were given this information, this is how you might display it, right? This is actually the sheet I'm probably the most proud of, which is sad to say because this is about maps and there's no maps here. But I thought it was a really good way of showing the proportion of time that a lot is over capacity. So here you can see the percentage of capacity, and you can, or the percent occupied, and you can change the capacity here. And so then it'll show you what percent of the time it's over 70% full. And I think traditionally analysts would probably stop right there. And I think it would not be a bad idea to stop right there because this does a pretty good job. But what I wanted to do was, plot some of these things. And one thing I don't see a lot in Tableau dashboards is these shaded areas that would represent, say, a parking lot. Typically, you see a dot. And so there are ways we can actually create shaded areas. And so that's what I'm going to show you today. And but this was an okay use, I think, of using a map in Tableau because you're able to select the type of lot, see where they are, and then see the amount of spaces. And obviously, you could, let your imagination run wild with how you can actually, create, percentage of occupation and create a heat map. But in my experience with this type of spatial data, heat maps are very confusing because they're different sizes, they're different types. And so it's a bit wild to even if you create a heat map with pages and had it, filter through the day, you would obviously see, occupation go up and then down. And I thought that this dashboard did a very good job of showing that. The other map that I made was this one where you could hover over, and you can also see how occupied a lot was throughout the day. So you can see, for example, this lot, in the morning there's no one parked there, and then by noon, it's almost full. And so now I will show you how to get to the map part of this project. So obviously you start here and you're looking at your record, and that's 4B camp. You can actually look at it. You can go and you say, okay, I want this space to be represented in my data. One way that I've seen people do it, and I'm sure there's a ton of ways that I don't know about, but you can actually click in Google Maps and you can get a latitude and longitude for certain points. And then you could go through and actually, document these points and create a SHP file. The other way is to use a resource called OpenStreetMap, which if I actually go to the About page, you can see here, OpenStreetMap, and you've probably actually seen OpenStreetMap somewhere. So for example, if you go to a campus map in Tableau, and then you look over here in this little left corner, you can see that says OpenStreetMap. That's because a lot of the data that Tableau uses to create roads comes from this open source product. In fact, you can also see, if you can see in the left-hand corner here, OpenStreetMap down here as well. And that's because this company that designed this product for our campus also used OpenStreetMap. And so it's very prevalent in the GIS world. Are there any questions yet, just to make sure?
We're good for now.
Okay. So now we're in OpenStreetMap, and let me get out of edit mode here. I'm very curious as to whether anyone has seen this before. But there's lots of different types of objects that you can create in OpenStreetMap. Anyone can edit, anyone can create an account. For example, this is a garden. And this, you have light poles. You even have telephone poles that you can add to the map. There's SOS beacons here, emergency phones. And so all of this can be downloaded from OpenStreetMaps. And so that's what I'm going to show you. But to show you that, I would like to show you how I would edit this document. So for example, right here, you can see that the satellite image is old. There's actually a building there now, 3 buildings, and that's a new construction. And I didn't even add this information here. Somebody else had already done it. But what they didn't do was they didn't name them. They left them blank. And so yesterday and this morning, just to test out this before doing it in public, I've added names here. This building here is called Water Rock Knob. And so I'm going to show you how, well, actually, hold on, let me go first to the current map. So I downloaded buildings from OpenStreetMap, and then I plotted it using geometry, the geometry field here, this one right here. And then I shaded it with names. And so you can see this one is named, but this one is not. And in fact, a lot of them are actually, let me go back here. And just do normal. That looks a little better. Maybe streets. You can see that a lot of these buildings are null. But we can name them. It would take some time, but you could name them. And so here we go. So there's our building, and its name is Water Rock Residence Hall. And then all you have to do is, if this icon was not there, is save this. It's going to ask you to put a comment. You can get pretty creative here. I think it's good to leave your name. Sometimes, you just put whatever you want. I'm going to say WCU and Hodges, and that will keep track of who made this upgrade or who made this comment. And then, so now that'll be reflected on the map. So you see Water Rock Residence Hall there. I should take this time also to point out that there are a lot of attributes that you can add to buildings or anything. I've seen Wi-Fi in here before. So if a building has Wi-Fi or doesn't have Wi-Fi, I think you can do a lot of different stuff here. You can add images, roof color, a Wikipedia page for the building, whatever you would like to add. And which brings me to, how do I actually download this data? Well, you can export an OSM file from OpenStreetMap, but the best way to do it would be to download this app called QGIS. And with that app, you can very quickly download OpenStreetMap data. And I will illustrate that right now. So I'm in a blank canvas, a little blank project here. I also downloaded the Quick OSM plugin, and I go here. And then I go to Quick Query. I'm going to put building and Western Carolina University. It looks like I've done this before. And I can show query. And in case someone is interested in programmatically downloading this information, there is it's called OverPy or Overpass API, and it uses this query language. So you can actually script this out and update your map automatically. Although I think that you could run into trouble if you do that, because it could be that someone updates your map in a way that you don't want. And so now you can see all the buildings here. And then I just right click on this and go to export. I'm going to save this as a shapefile. And I'm just going to sample data 007 maybe. And I'm going to press OK. So that saved that there. Now I'm going to go back to my Tableau dashboard here, and I'm going to connect a new data source, and it'll be a new spatial file, and we're going to do that sample data 007. Create a new sheet, go to geometry, add that there. There's my buildings, and then add name. And now, oh, so glad that worked. Sometimes it takes a little while to save. And so now you can see Water Rock Residential Hall is the name. And now, whereas before it was null. Now, why did I do that? The reason I did that is because if you have a data set that has names and IDs, what you want is you want to be able to join this data set with your spatial file. And so in order to do that with the parking lots, as an example, what I did was I added a description here. You see that? That is the ID that I put for the parking lot. And description was never used for parking lots. And so I just kind of hijacked the description element to describe the parking lot. And then once I had this, I could then simply bring in my table, my flat table here, which is just that CSV file, and then take that SHP file and then just join them on lot ID as description. And that joins the data so that you can look at the data you collected relative to the actual position and where these lots are. And I think that pretty much wraps it up. Some other GIS tools that I really like is the Google Maps Distance API. With that, you can actually put in addresses, zip codes, or latitude and longitudes of a location, and then get drive time and distance to a destination. And then you can also get addresses, zip codes, latitude, and longitudes from the Urban Institute API for public schools or colleges. Sometimes I have fun with local county tax websites where you can download them and look at property taxes. And typically, I don't know if it's a national law, but here in North Carolina, you can go to almost any county's website and download an SHP file from them. And then, of course, the Census Bureau has GIS data. And this is Water Rock Knob, which is what our residence hall is named after. I hope that was helpful.
That was really cool. There's a whole bunch of people whose minds are just completely blown by what you showed us and what in general you can do in Tableau. We do have a couple questions out there, and I just lost my screen when I switched to share. Hold on. So there is a request to, if you can share those links that you had in that Word doc, if you could just post those into the chat, that would be amazing. There's a question about QGIS. To confirm, it is free and open source, just like OpenStreetMap is to use. Is that correct?
Yes, it is completely free, and that is why I'm using it, because I am poor. So nothing that I typically do with information takes money. want to
Awesome.
overlay 2 shape files over each other in Tableau. You know, that's why I actually really liked Allie's, I hope I remembered her name, Allie's presentation before me, because I have never really used layers in Tableau. And, but and I think that could help you overlay 2
Yeah,
shape.
map layers are really cool because you can not only use them for actual maps, but there's also been a lot of nifty, sort of card-like things that people have built using map layers for non-geographic data. If anyone has used map layers and wants to sort of give us a demo, we would love to have someone come back at a future AT-Tug meeting and sort of talk about map layers, both for geographic and potentially non-geographic data as well. One question that I had that I don't remember, but I know I posted it so I wouldn't forget, is so when you were showing us how you brought in brought the shapefile and sort of joined it to your data set of usage, you just used the generic or the default relationship module. Have you ever had to go in and actually use a join? Like, have you noticed any differences between when using relationships versus using joins with how well the shapefiles work, or just work with the non-shape data?
You mean like blending rather than joining?
Either blending or so, because like there's the relationship module, which is like the noodles, and then you can actually do like a left join or a right join, or an inner or full outer join. But yeah, like either way, like either with blending or like joins versus relationships.
I don't think I've used relationships before. But I haven't had any issues so far with just the left join.
Okay.
Yeah, and one thing, it might seem a bit like a lot to do in order to get this information, but fortunately buildings don't move too often, and so which they do, obviously, because I showed you an example of a building that was no longer there and then there at the same time. But once you edit the OpenStreetMap, you can save that information. You can probably have it for a decade before it's not useful anymore.
Right, or you just make the changes that you need to make as a new building comes online, or generally
Yeah.
those types of things are pretty well known. I would imagine most universities would put information about a brand new building open or breaking ground on the news and whatnot. There's also a mention in the chat that often facilities departments will have shape files for campus buildings. Or they may be willing to partner with you because it's something on their to-do list, and if you have a need that is separate from what they need, but you're willing to put some legwork into it, there may be an opportunity there to partner if you're not already in facilities with your facilities folks.
Yeah, I don't think we have any. I'm not sure that we have any SHP files, but yeah, they probably do somewhere.
It's just a matter of tracking them down sometimes.
Yeah,
but not all folks do. And I think Carl mentioned that.
Oh,
is Carl at WCU?
There's the data architect right there.
Yeah.
We don't. Okay. I don't know. I've never talked to Javier about that before.
Great. If anyone else has any questions, feel free to post them in the chat. So like I have one question just about like how you put this all together. How did you go about thinking about, okay, I need to get this outside data, or just how much trial and error was there involved in putting this thing together, getting all, because you are working with these disparate data sets, and there's a lot of like manual effort involved in actually doing the data cleaning, which a lot of folks, a lot of us realize we have to do when we're working with data, but a lot of folks on the other side don't necessarily think, oh, well, now you have to create a map. That shouldn't take long at all.
Yeah, okay, so Allison is chiming in. I didn't even show how much work was needed in order to just get that that flat file that I showed you, where it's all neat and tidy. It took a lot of effort. That's only because, what we were using, what the parking operations was using to collect this information was an Excel spreadsheet. Actually, I should say they were writing it down and then going back to the office and then putting it in an Excel sheet that was in a very logical format structure for yourself for saving the information, but not a very good structure for using it in Tableau. And so I wrote a lot of scripts, a lot of Python to get all that together. But that's the thing. The mapping was actually not too difficult. The only thing that was difficult was sometimes I would look at a lot like in OpenStreetMaps and it didn't look correct based off the satellite image. And I would actually like on my lunch break, I'd take a walk and look at the area and like lo and behold, it's definitely not the way OpenStreetMap was showing it. And I wouldn't go into how to actually create areas and lines and points in OpenStreetMap today. And the reason I wouldn't do that is because as soon as you make an account and you log into there, they have a very nice tutorial because they want you to use their product, because the more you use it, the more recent, the more current the data is. And so it was just a matter of going through and finding each lot and then adding an ID to it.
So how many miles did you walk?
Uh,
Trying to verify what the internet says about WCU versus what the actual,
Not too
landscape
far.
really looks like.
A healthy amount.
Nice way to stay fit. Well, thank you so much, Nathan. I think you already posted some of those links, and we'll make sure we put them in the Slack as well. So thanks again for sharing all of that really cool info on how to do maps. And we are very close to wrapping up. Before we wrap up, though, we do need to do a shameless plug / if you don't sign up for this, you're not going to get notified about new Tableau user groups. And it's not because of us, it's all Tableau. Tableau is moving to a new event platform for all of its user groups. And in order to stay on the list to get emails, you do need to go to this URL, which I just posted in the Slack. The tool is called Bevy. So if you go to that URL and then click the Join Us button, you may have to log in if you already have an account, or if you don't, you can create an account. These accounts are not linked to any other existing Tableau accounts, so sorry. That's just how it is. Once you are actually joined to our HETUG or Higher Education Tableau user group, that's a really big mouthful, but that's also how everything's going to be listed now. We will be able to notify you when new events are posted, and also send you emails after the fact about, with links like all of these links that are in the chat right now, plus other links that come up related to what is shared during our higher ed Tableau user groups. It only takes a minute to log in, which is why I am like stretching this out like crazy, because I want people to actually be logging in right now and joining the group. We can even see how many people have joined our chapter, which I might actually do while I keep rambling on for the next couple minutes. Is this working? Like, am I actually getting people to sign up? Or am I just really being annoying? It's okay if I'm just being annoying. Oh, look at that. We see some people signing up. This is wonderful. Our first event in this platform is going to be next month's event. So I'm going to pass this on to, I think Andrew is closing this out. If not,
Yep,
yes.
you're right.
All right. All right.
Okay, so what's up next? We'd love your thoughts on today's sessions, on the topics presented and the speakers. The link is there in QR code. Our next event is coming up April 25th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, featuring David Martin from The Ohio State University. Jenny Munch from App State, and Ken Florledge from Moxie Analytics. And we are always looking for new speakers to present really interesting stuff like what we saw today. So if you're interested, fill in the form at the bottom there. We'd love to have you featured in an upcoming session.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for joining. We're gonna stop the recording in just a second and move into our breakout rooms, but we want to give a special shout out to Geoff, Allie, and Nathan for sharing everything that they shared with us today. We will be sending out an email and a Slack message with sort of a wrap up of everything here. And hopefully early next week, we'll have the video recording in case you want to rewatch any of this, or if you just, if you missed it or want to share with your colleagues, we'll have that information posted again early next week, we hope. If you, in the meantime, if you have any questions for us, feel free to reach out on Slack or email the leads at higheredtug@gmail.com. I think that's our email. I don't even know what our email is. It's sad. Anyway, thank you, everyone.